Okay, good morning guys. Today we're going to make falafel. The first day we're going to make our mix. We have our ingredients here that I'll go over. I just want to reiterate how to use this machine safely and properly. Obviously you have to have it plugged in. Okay, when you clean it you always have it unplugged, so we'll get to that in a second. So everybody gets confused, sometimes they're putting it wrong. So you see everything is facing you in a 6 o'clock form. Okay, so you have everything here locked in place. Now you gotta turn everything to the left to unlock it. So turn this first, because you cannot remove this part without turning the top to the left. So turn it to the left, remove. Now you can turn the handle to the left, and then remove, okay? And then you carefully take this out, okay? Never touch the blade. Over here, especially the serrations are very, very sharp, and we learned about serrations last week. Do not handle this without a cut glove, okay? Now you can even see here it says rotate counterclockwise. So this mechanism on the bottom here will lock in place here. If it's not locked in as a safety precaution, it will not work. So let's get started. Let's put it back on. Start in this position, and then you hear it click in place. Then we got to put this guy first. Please make sure you put your blade in before you put any food, because if you do that, then you'll have to dump everything out and restart, and it's going to be a disaster and a big mess. Then we put this guy on in the same lefting position, and we lock to the right, and we're ready to go. Okay? For this recipe, we're going to pulse. Okay? And every couple of minutes, we're going to scrape down the sides. All right? So let's get started now with our ingredients. Okay? So we have here our fresh dill, cilantro, and parsley, our half of white onion, and our 6 cloves. Put a little more if you like. All right. Now, usually I take the stems off, but if they're really big, you know, you should. Like this guy's a little too big, but if they're small little stems, leave them on. So we're gonna add all this stuff first and pulse it. Okay. Pulse it until it gets a puree. I know in the recipe it says add everything, but I like to add it this herb team first. Okay. And then pulse it until it's a paste. Okay. So we'll start pulsing. I'll zoom in a little bit more so you can see better what's going on. Okay, now let's check it out. Okay, you see how some stuff is all around. Let's just scrape it down. It smells wonderful with all those fresh herbs, especially the dill. It's very pungent. Now, as I've said before, never take this top bit out and insert any tools in here while it's running, because it's going to break the machine, and it's also going to cut off the tips. You may have seen some of these spatulas without a tip. It's because of that reason. Okay, do not ever put anything in the machine while it's running. So let's pulse it a little more before we add everybody else. Okay, it's looking pretty good now. So that's the consistency we're looking for. Okay, my garlic, my onions are nice and chopped. Okay, there's no huge chunks, and we're ready to add everything else. So I have my 2 8/10 of a cup. It's a weird measurement, I know, but that's what comes out perfectly. Okay, make sure you give them a little dry off. Okay, now I have my dry team that we went over. We have the cayenne or bird's eye chili if you want to add for extra spice. If you use this, please break it up before you put it in. We have our coriander, which is a very nice citrusy flavor. We have our cumin for the smokiness, salt for flavor, a little dash of cardamom, which is optional, and I like to put a little baking soda inside the mix as well, because tomorrow when we fry, we're going to boil it up with baking soda and the sesame seeds to form a really crispy, crunchy crust. Now, if you do all this stuff too far in advance, it won't get crispy. You have to do it the day before, especially with the sesame seeds. Okay. Now this bit here is chickpea flour. It's not flour at all. It's made from chickpeas. It's good for people with gluten allergies, but it's also a good way to thicken up your falafel mix if it's too loose, by adding something that's still vegan instead of an egg. Some people like to put eggs, which I don't like. That's completely not right, but it also gives it more authenticity. So I'm going to hold off on this to see how my mix comes out. If it's too thin, I'm going to add this. So let's pulse this guy a little bit. Okay. And I'm pulsing just to combine. Remember to scrape down the sides. Let it run a little bit. We want it to have some body. We don't want soup. We don't want a smoothie. We want it just to be nice and chunky, okay? Because tomorrow we're going to form them into balls, okay? And you need them to be nice and homogeneous, okay? So let it run a little bit. I think that's pretty good. Let's check it out. Turn to the left. Scrape down. Okay. Now my mixture looks pretty good. If you want to test it, put some in your hand and just give it a little squeeze. Tomorrow I'm going to show you how to squeeze and ball properly, and you can make patties. We're going to make balls. All right, but this is a little wet. Sometimes the onion could be a little bigger than it needs to be in the recipe, but this is just a little flavor. I'm going to put half of this in here. Okay, keep your station clean. Okay, and we'll see how that works out, just to make it a little thicker. All right, so now that I added my mix, my ground chickpeas, you see we got a nice, smooth consistency. And tomorrow they'll be so much more flavorful. We'll scoop them, we'll shape them with a little oil or water in our hands. You can see all the herbs and spices in here. It smells wonderful. Now you can see how that chickpea flour helped to shape it and keep it more together. Do not add egg, do not add regular flour, because it just ruins the entire consistency and the flavor. Okay, so this, we're gonna put it in a large container, labeled, and the flavors will marry overnight and be even more delicious tomorrow. Falafel, you cannot fry ahead of time and then microwave it, because it's gonna be like an eraser head. You have to do it like this and then fry it and then eat it within 15-20 minutes of making it, or it's all for nothing. All right, enjoy the recipe, guys, and we'll do part 2 tomorrow. Take care.